Welcome everybody to the War and Peace Baseball Podcast. Here today with Farbode.
Hello.
And Alex.
Hey.
And I'm also Alex. We'll get right to it this week. Gonna go ahead and focus in on our main man on the free agent market, James Shields again. Hopefully not on the free agent market too much longer though, as the season is approaching rapidly.
Yes, hopefully not too much longer. I am tired of this.
Yep, it seems like we gotta come back to this every week.
Yeah, in the off season before the 2012 season, the off season that Prince Fielder and Albert Pujols signed, Fielder took until January, and we thought that was a long time. But hey, James, it's February, and pitchers are supposed to be reporting in 2 weeks, and you don't have a team.
Well, I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than that. I'm
obviously,
sure it's not all that James Shields just doesn't want to decide. I'm sure it's killing him.
No, waiting this out has only hurt him. He got,
I know.
There were rumors of the $110 million contract he got, and now he's only getting like $70 to $80 million contracts. That's still a lot of money, but he probably missed out on a lot more. And, so it's only hurting him waiting out. And I know I've talked to you guys about this, but what contract would you give him?
So you're asking what contract
would you give him? Not contract he's going to get.
What contract he deserves.
Yeah, what contract does he deserve?
Not what he's gonna get though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably I'd give him 4 years, 80.
Rudy?
4 years, how much?
80. That's how much I'd give him. This point.
I would probably give him 4 years, 80 as well.
I've told you guys this, I'd give him obviously he wouldn't accept, but this is what I think he'd deserve, because I'd give him 3 years, 60 with with incentives of like innings pitched ERA in his last year to earn his fourth year, because if I'm giving up $20 million a year, I want to know that a guy that's on his decline right now would still be able to contribute in the fourth year of his contract.
Well, I guess you could say that about any pitcher that signs. There's always risk.
Oh, no, I know, but like, he's already shown that he's gradually declining, and he's getting older. I wouldn't like say he's going to be the same James Shields right now in 3 years.
No. I think that has to do with the fact that he has so many innings on his arm.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm saying like innings, and like, I just give him incentives, bonuses. Like, if he reaches those goals in his third year or throughout his whole contract, I'd give him the last one.
Well, I'm sure it's not going to be as straightforward as 4 years, 80.
Oh, no.
What we're saying either. It's just
the current
what you gotta give him.
Is that he's, the Padres are going after him, and I would really think that's a really, really good move for the Padres.
It's a great move for the Padres.
I would probably have to put them
Padres, Marlins, they could both use them.
I'd have to say they could be like, I would have to say they could be a playoff team, possibly.
They wouldn't win the division. They'd compete for the wild card. They wouldn't win the division.
No. But, I mean, even though their infield would still be pretty horrendous, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They would have an incredibly strong outfield and pitching staff, and that's, in this MLB with 2 wild card spots, that's probably enough. You don't really need more.
All I'm saying is hopefully James Shields
be better than the Giants.
Yeah, they would. All I'm saying is hopefully next week, when we do this again, James Shields has a team, and we're talking about his new team.
We were kind of hoping that he'd have a team
before this
by
one.
This week. We'd heard
but it's turned into the week of molasses. Part 2.
I read articles that said he's gonna pick his team this week, and
those never work out.
Week.
So much selfish for that, holding us in suspense like this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. He's gonna get $80 million. Jesus.
I was being sarcastic.
I know. Same.
So in terms of what teams will make the greatest push for him, you mentioned the Padres. Do you think that they're gonna actually have what it takes to land him?
As long as their ownership is willing to spend the money, I think that's a great destination for him. San Diego's a great city, great stadium, great pitcher's park. young and rising team where he can be another leader again, like on the Royals. I'd rather go to than the Marlins. Actually, I don't know. I think it's the same situation. Honestly, I think you have two teams on the rise, two great pitchers, brand new ballparks, two great cities, and ownerships that cannot be trusted and are very sketchy with the financial operations when it comes to committing to winning. And I think also both give them veteran leadership opportunities. So I think those would be the final two teams when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and I've also heard that he's gonna prefer a West Coast team.
Yeah, it's because he lives out in the West Coast. But the two teams I've heard other than the Padres, which would make a complete sense for him to go to the Padres, is the Marlins and the Cubs.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up the Cubs.
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it, but if they get him, they would be a legit threat. With Hamill, Lester, and him.
How did you have Hamill headlining that rotation there?
I was trying to think of Lester, but then
it just wouldn't come to your head.
Yeah, it would not. You should have heard. If you heard, it took me a while to just come up with Lester.
Yeah. Did I miss something? Isn't Hamill on the Phillies?
No, Hamill. Jason Hamill.
Oh.
No, I didn't say Hamels. I said Hamill.
Which is why I was confused.
No, he said Jason Hamill. He said Hamill.
He was confused. He had trouble.
I don't think Hamill is the number one.
No. I'm not saying
he was blanking for a second.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Anyway, I think if the Cubs would be able to pull it off, I think they could benefit from that even more so than these other teams that are less complete in my mind. You mentioned the Padres. They have a pretty good outfield. They don't have a very complete lineup though. Their starting pitching is on the upward, but it's not quite where it needs to be.
I think their starting pitching is really good. Actually, I disagree.
I said it's on the upward. It's not.
I don't think it's really any much worse than the Cubs is even with Lester.
Well, the Cubs rotation isn't amazing either, and the Cubs they seem to be more in that mindset that they really need to gather as many pieces as possible.
I don't think that's
to put their team in a position to win in the next couple of years.
The Padres just made 3 mid-win now trades this offseason. How could you say the Cubs are trying to win, get better more? That's not an accurate statement.
The Padres are in that same mindset, but they're not as. They weren't as far along as the Cubs were already.
I think the Cubs are in like a win now thing. I'm not saying the Padres aren't in a win now, but I think the Cubs are like, okay, we got all of our guys here. We're ready to spend our money, make the moves just to win this season, starting this season.
Right, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, Shields obviously has played on the same team that Joe Madden has managed with the Rays, and that's going to be a pretty big incentive for him, but I think it's just going to come down to who's going to be able to pay him the most.
Especially because he lost out on that.
An extra $10 million, if the Cubs are willing to tack that on, will be enough to take him away from that West Coast destination that he wants.
If you were him, where would you go?
If I were him, if all teams were going to give me the same contract, I would go with the Padres.
Really?
But I think the Cubs seem like a team that's more willing to put in the money right now to go after a guy like Shields.
I would go to the Cubs if I were him. Even though it's not the West Coast, but it's like that team, he's getting older, he's not gonna have that much time to win. He's not gonna be able to wait out on a team that's like average, or I'm not saying the Padres are average, but I'm just saying that a lot of those guys could underperform, just like the Cubs, but the Cubs have a much brighter future in like 3-4 years. So even when he's not at his like highest level of pitching, he's still going to have that chance to win.
Right, because you think about the teams that he been with before with the Rays, who somehow managed to magically get themselves to the playoffs for a good stretch of that time where he was there. That kind of disappeared by the time he had gone to the Royals, and then the Royals come out of nowhere and make this push that nobody had expected, with James Shields leading the way with that rotation.
You know, he
And
didn't do that great in the playoffs, but other than that,
but
he led them to the playoffs.
He was part of these two teams that had, in a lot of people's minds,
They had
no business
miraculous
being
run.
in the playoffs. I don't think that's a major concern of his, being on a team that can take it, that has the potential to make it to the World Series, because he's proven, well, he has that experience that shows that that's not what it takes, is just
I know.
stocking up as many players as possible. He has a better understanding of what it means to be on a winning team. And I think he can find a way to win with the Padres if he does decide to go there.
Oh, so, of course. That ballpark is just great too.
That's true.
That ballpark's great for him.
So yeah, I feel like we kind of ruled out the Marlins there, but thinking about the Marlins rotation, the Marlins rotation with James Shields in it is extremely deep. I saw a depth chart of their rotation, and there's a lot of young pitchers that are kind of fighting for those lower spots anyway. I think guys like Kohler and Jared Kozart from the Astros had a pretty good season too. And you know, these are pitchers that, you know, they can kind of balance out that last 4 or 5 spot, but if you can even push that back even further, you have like 7 starting pitchers that could all pitch on any club at any given time. And that is something that is not very common in a lot of teams. You see clubs scrapping for that 5th guy in some cases. And I think the Marlins are already in a decent position with their rotation, but acquiring James Shields would make it even better.
Oh yeah. That rotation would be just great, and he would be able to lead that team too, especially right before Jose comes back, Fernandez.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting case too, because if you were on that team and you have Jose Fernandez come back to his form, he might be considered, I don't know what you'd consider him, if you consider him the ace of the staff that just pitches in the 2 spot of that rotation. I mean, it's, because Fernandez is definitely a much,
I'd call Jose the ace, and I'd call James Shields the leader.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a guy that's leading this rotation, or, you know, it's not a situation that you see very often where the leader of your staff is not your number 1 guy, which is a nice problem to have, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, in terms of other teams that were in the conversation with James Shields before, I think at this point, they've just decided, we don't want to deal with it, we're just gonna go ahead and, roll with what we have going into spring training.
I think he just messed this situation up. If he could have signed last month for $110 million. That were the rumors. I'm not saying that was definite, but I think he just messed the situation up for himself.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think we've been considering that to be the case since mid-January even.
There were rumors in November that he's going to sign later this week, and it's February and he still hasn't signed.
Right, and I understand that the market kind of wanted to play out with the whole Scherzer situation and see what happens there. All these teams that are waiting to see what happens, but that was 2 weeks ago now, and Shields still isn't. Nothing's come together for him, that we know of. It definitely seems to be narrowing down, but you know, with a deadline, so.
Oh yeah.
It's not the ideal situation for him by any means.
I feel like he could be kind of rushed.
Welcome back.
So it's technical difficulties, yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to jump in on the James Shields trade? We've been going back and forth for a while.
I'm surprised taken this long. I expected Scherzer to be the holdout, not him. And I think that really, he can help any team, bolster any team's rotation. And that he doesn't grossly overpay him will be greatly improved with him as an addition. But he should not be the number one ace on any team that wants to compete.
No, he would be like we said about Jose Fernandez, he'd be the leader, but like the Marlins, he would be the leader, but Jose Fernandez, when he comes back, he'd be the ace.
Right, but just that veteran presence.
Yeah, it's the veteran leadership.
It's kind of a winning presence, you could consider it, based on his experience of the teams he's been on before.
Yep.
So, that is the weekly James Shields update, hopefully the last one that we have to.
No, we're gonna have at least one more just if he signs this week.
Right, we'll go ahead and talk about him for one more week in the top stories.
Oh, yeah.
James Shields. Good luck finding a team. So, our other top story is Victor Martinez is some trouble in his knees again. He will be missing about 6 weeks, but it could be longer depending on his recovery.
When I got this notification on my phone, I cringed. I love V-Mart. I love everything about him, his age and the way he's able to hit right now. But this injury is his second injury in his second big knee injury in 4 years. He, at some point, even with his age, I mean, no, you have to consider his age. Father time might be catching up with him. And he's not going to be the same player when he comes back. The second place in MVP finish with 32 homers, batting .335. He's not, with 2 knee surgeries under his belt within 4 years, I don't think he's going to be the same player. But this is going to be an even bigger blow to the Tigers. They didn't lose a bat, they lost a big threat.
Well, yeah. We talked about this team last week as our team of the week, and we discussed one of the main reasons that this team is still in our minds one of the best in their division is because their lineup is just so dominant.
And then now their lineup just suffered the big blow. Like,
yeah.
It kind of reminds me of last year at, right before season was starting. Their shortstop, was his? Iglesias, yeah. Iglesias got injured and they had to they scattered to find, I think at the beginning of the year at least, they platooned with 3 different guys. So,
yeah, they had, what was that, Alex Gonzalez?
Yeah, and then
they had him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Suarez or whatever.
Suarez played for a bit, yep.
And then, so, I'm guessing DH is not going to be that hard to find, but that production is going to be a lot harder.
Right. You just brought up Iglesias too. I was a really big Jose Iglesias fan, and that's kind of a similar situation, just on the other side of the ball though, defensively. He was, in my mind, he just amazed me more than any other shortstop. He was like Andrelton Simmons level.
Shortstop
in my mind.
Defensive wise, he's like Simmons or Hechavarria or Tulo, but offensive wise, he's kind of like Hechavarria.
Nothing amazing.
They can't really hit, but they can they're amazing defenders.
Right, and you lose that, up the middle, the most important positions on any team are, catcher, shortstop, center field, and you lose a defensive piece like that. That creates a lot of problems. The Tigers already not one of the better defensive teams in their division or in the American League even. Yeah, go ahead.
If I may interrupt for 1 second. No one has said that he will miss any time in the season. I do think that having your second major knee surgery in 4 years at his age is a huge problem, and I don't know if he'll ever really be able to continue his previous year's performance with that plus his age. No one has said he's going to miss any regular season time.
No, I'm not saying.
Well, I don't know.
I'm not saying he's going to
be that affected. So I think I might be jumping the gun a little bit prematurely.
I'm not saying he's going to miss any time.
But
I'm not saying he's going to miss any time, but then just it is
the a new DH. So.
No, I know, but if this is the second, if it is the 6 to 8 weeks, right now, opening day is in jeopardy. He might come back before that, but then he's not like the 21-year-old player who can recover a lot faster than 30 something, whatever he is, 37, 36. He's not that player anymore, so recovery might take a little slower, and that I'm just taking into account how he might not be he might not be ready, so they're gonna have to figure something out.
Right. Something that I wanted to touch on about his first knee injury is that recovering from that, the biggest thing that suffered for him, I believe, was his power numbers, because you don't have that strong base to plant off of. He doesn't. He's a switch hitter. I believe it's his left knee.
His former catcher.
Is that his left knee that that he injured? Is that right?
I'm not sure.
I believe it's his left knee. I could be wrong, but a lot of his power is from that left side of the plate. If you can't use that leg to drive off of and create a lot of force, that's gonna affect his power numbers again, no matter what. So, he's still one of the grindiest hitters out there. You don't really think about that very much, is the fact that he's one of the toughest outs in the game.
Professional hitter.
You're not gonna see that power right out of the gate until he has that strong base under him, which is going to be tough to recover from overall. I mean, he can still hit 300 for you, no problem, if
he's a professional hitter,
if he recovers decently, but unless he's able to really be able to trust that leg, I guess.
Oh no, it's all about trust. Like whenever a pitcher injures their leg anywhere, just like Garrett Richards most recently, his patella. If it's their landing leg, it's gonna take a lot of it's gonna be a lot harder for them just to make sure they finish their pitches. If it's their push off leg, they won't be able to throw the same speed that they could for a long time until they're like 100% trusting in their knee. It's all about trust. It's like it's basically if they don't trust it, they won't be able to go back up to the 95 that they used to throw before the injury. It's just trust. If he trusts it, he might be able to hit with the pop, but
is it trust? Is it trust?
Yes.
Possibly.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I think I don't see him putting himself in a position to re-injure that knee at the plate.
No, it's because
most of that comes from
he's a DH now, and I mean he used to be a catcher, and that could have led to the two knee injuries. But he's a DH. He won't hurt it hitting wise, but maybe on the base paths or doing something like that.
Yeah, I remember last year he did play a few games at first base.
Oh yeah, but that was because Miguel Cabrera had a couple stints of just.
More importantly,
I don't see that being the case anymore.
I think the bigger picture here is that they kind of this injury and how big of a deal it is, even though it can mean nothing, shows how little depth that the Tigers have and how poorly I think they managed the past year in transactions. Because I mean, they're one loss of their second best hitter. I know losing second best hitter is a big thing, but he isn't really healthy in the season. I mean, it's a ridiculous blow to them that I don't think they can recover from for the playoffs, and that shows they really lack depth. Because compared to, let's say, the Nationals last year, who lost Zimmerman for most of the year, who you could argue going into the season,
they had a bunch of.
They had problems when Zimmerman came back. That's how well off they were.
No, but he missed most of the year. Was my point.
They had to move him to left field because
going into the year, you could argue he was their second best hitter or around there, and they still made the playoffs easily. And I don't think the Tigers have anywhere near that depth or room for error. So I think they're in big trouble. Because even if he does come back for opening day, it's like you said, the recovery doesn't just because you have to add more time to the recovery for you to really get back in your groove. And
now imagine if they lost one of their pitchers.
All that, yeah. So.
If they lost the David Price, if they lost the Animal Sanchez, they would not be anywhere.
Right, so we talked about last week the teams that we thought would be leading this Central Division. We all agreed that it would be very, very close. Still kind of deciding that the Tigers would be on top just because of their experience that they have. And I think that is going to be affected greatly. I don't see them being in a top 2 spot potentially even in that division.
But he's not going to be out for like most of the season.
I know, but in that case, in the worst case scenario that is, that there are problems with his recovery and things take longer. Like, I believe the same injury happened to Ryan Howard, and that was way longer than they hoped.
He ruptured his Achilles.
Oh, no, yeah.
Did he?
Rudy's right.
Which is a lot worse.
That is worse.
And it's a much worse injury for baseball because it affects your swing more.
Then, just scratching that worst case scenario, V-Mart is not the same productive MVP caliber hitter that he was last year. I don't see that team being able to top a team like the White Sox or even possibly the Indians.
I think that team's going to compete. They're still going to compete but like you said, I don't know. I think the White Sox have the better shot at the division now because they have a more complete team now.
I don't think that's true. They don't have any depth either.
They don't have depth, but they have the pitching that the Tigers do not have. They have a better. The Tigers have a better offense, but
I'm a big White Sox fan going into this year. Obviously I'm not a fan. I'm not a White Sox fan. But I like their team and their setup, but I don't personally think they're really anywhere ahead the other teams. I mean, their right field.
It's all going to be competing.
Their second base is a huge hole. Third base is a huge hole. Catcher is a huge hole. I mean,
Connor Gillespie's not a huge hole.
Fine. The catching is a huge hole. Tyler Flowers should not be starting in the major leagues. Second base, Emilio Bonifacio and Gordon Beckham platooning is not ideal. And then Garcia and Bonifacio in right field is nowhere near ideal either. And the rotation is, their back of the rotation is terrible, so.
Past their front couple guys, that is.
They don't really go 5 deep, so. I don't feel like that's any better than.
I think they're going to compete with the Tigers.
Right, the Tigers are not looking.
I think you guys are sleeping on the Indians too much.
I mentioned the Indians.
I think the Indians have a legit shot with their pitching staff. I think their staff's pretty damn good. With Kluber, Salazar, and then they have
Bauer.
Bauer. Bauer still has to grow a little, but he's actually last year he started to show some signs of being a decent pitcher.
They at least have no holes in their lineup. I don't think their rotation is great.
What about their defense?
Their bullpen is a little bit sketchy, but at the very least their lineup and their fielding, especially considering that shortstop prospect is going to start at shortstop, I believe, this year. I'm blanking on his name. Francisco Lindor. Yes, that's him. So, I think they should be pretty complete offensively, and they should be better defensively, so.
Yeah, I agree. They've been a little bit more in the works than, perhaps the White Sox have, so.
Yes.
So, on that note, we should probably wrap up the top stories there. Again, very slow week in baseball, but, February is that kind of month, I guess. So we'll be moving on to our top 5 players at each position, continuing at first base. We'll go ahead and start with your list, Farbode.
Number 5, Edwin Encarnacion. So, I read somewhere that he's a DH, but disguised as a first baseman. And that is true because his defense isn't great, but he's a hitter. He's a bit pull happy, but once you take those small negatives away, he's a when he's healthy, he's a big threat. He's a 40 home run guy, drives in runs. He's great. Number 4, Anthony Rizzo. This year, other than John Lester, I feel like he's going to have to be a leader on that team. And he's definitely gonna have to be a leader in that young lineup too. And he can hit for power, he can hit for, he can drive in runs. He's also, I have him better than Encarnacion because he's slightly a better fielder.
Slightly?
No, he's not slightly, but he's a way better fielder, my bad. Miguel Cabrera, number 3. I don't like his contract at all.
Okay, that's a little bit unfair, I think.
No, he was paid a shit ton. I don't like his
I know,
contract.
I don't think it's fair to judge his
I don't think it's
ranking based on his contract.
No, I'm not basing his ranking.
That's what it sounds like.
I'm not doing that. I just started off with that. But when he's healthy, I feel like he's not Triple Crown anymore, but he's still an MVP, option every year when he's healthy. At first base, obviously his defense is not going to be, like elite, but it's gotten better over the years. And, he's still one of the best hitters in the game when he's healthy. Number 2, I got Paul Goldschmidt. He got sidelined this year after getting hit in the hand, ending his year. He's a great hitter, got pop. 2014 was an average defensive year, but when he had he had a really good one in 2013. I think I would put him at my number 2, but the only question is, what is that hand injury going to have an effect on his power and his hitting in 2015? And my number 1 is, Jose Abreu. Yes, he's a rookie. Yes, after his rookie year, I put him number 1. But that's because Abreu's a tank. He's a monster. You could call him so many different names. But just look at his numbers. He hits for average. He hits for home runs. He drives in runs. I think he's going to have a better year this year because Adam LaRoche is going to be his protection in the lineup. And along with that, whenever he's tired, whenever he's not feeling that great, then you could put LaRoche at first base, Abreu day off or DH, and then just to keep him healthy for the full 162 games because there were some stretches where he was hurt last year. So I think Abreu is just an amazing first baseman.
I'm gonna go with Adrian Gonzalez as my number 5. He's not nearly at his peak offensively as he used to be, but he's still, I think, one of the most dependable hitters in the lineup, and just he's very productive. He's all around extremely productive offensively without completely excelling in any one category. And then more importantly, in my opinion, he's outstanding defensively. And I think people just kind of ignore the fact that first basemen have to play defense a lot too. I think the really underrated skill for first baseman to be capable defensively. I think people just kind of brush it off and forget how valuable it is to have a quality defensive first baseman.
The days of Mark Teixeira playing full time, and being that amazing first baseman aren't here that much anymore. So great defensive first basemen aren't that shown that much on anymore.
We got Eric Hosmer, who
Eric Hosmer
basically relies on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna go with I'm gonna have a tie between Anthony Rizzo and Freddie Freeman at 4 for me. I know it's kind of breaking the rules, but they're both extremely young and extremely productive. Not extremely young, but they're both young, productive first basemen who are all around exceptional. I think they're in that same category of Adrian where they don't hit 40 home runs, they don't hit 120 RBIs, they don't hit 330. But I think they're extremely balanced offensively, where they're above average in all the categories, while they're also both very good defensive first basemen. And I expect next year for them to have go another step in their production and become elite offensive as well as elite defensively. Three, I'm gonna go with, Jose Abreu. I understand why you put him one far below. I just can't really rank a guy in the top two if he's probably going to be a DH almost exclusively next year.
I don't think he's necessarily going to be DH exclusively. I feel like Adam LaRoche is going to be DH more than Abreu.
Adam LaRoche is a much better defensive first baseman.
Abreu is awful defensively from what I've heard.
Oh, I know that.
I just can't, and I don't trust his 1 year of numbers. Exceptional. I've trusted that with Kluber or earlier rankings, but I don't.
The thing is,
I'd like to see 1 more year of him with he's a swing with a giant hole in it, and I would be really surprised if his average stays that high for the rest of his career, because he doesn't have a swing that really encourages that well, on base contact, and I still think he's an outstanding player. I think he could easily be the best first baseman in the league next year, but I think my next two guys are still in a different category. Number two, I'm going to Paul Goldschmidt, who is arguably he's probably one of the most all-around capable players in the entire MLB. He does everything at above average in the league level as position. He steals the most stolen bases out of any first baseman.
I was waiting for somebody to mention that.
He plays outstanding defense, and he's a really, really incredibly well-rounded hitter. And you just don't see a lot of players like him anymore who are so all-around skilled. Where he's a 5-tool player, and he's an exceptional talent. I still think he has a bit more of a breakout left in him, even though he had a great 2013 and he was on pace to have an outstanding 2014 post-injury. But I can't put him number one yet without that, out of this world year yet, but I think he totally has it in him. I think what puts him above, what my previous guys I ranked is that he's both entering his prime, he's well-rounded, and he's already proved himself to have the potential. He's already proven that he's a breakout, all league talent offensively. When you go in Freeman and Rizzo, I don't think they haven't had quite that year yet. And then number one, I put Miguel Cabrera, because even at his down year last year, you could argue he was the best offensive first baseman last year. I think Brady was probably better, but the numbers are relatively close, and that was a down year for Cabrera. I don't know if he'll ever go back to his peak, two-year back-to-back MVP, Triple Crown, years, but I just have to give him the respect. Even if his last year's performance wasn't his best, the guy I still think I have to put him as number one, because when the guy is on, he is the best player in the major leagues, and even though if he's bad defensively, I have to give him respect for that.
Right. I agree. So, the most fun thing about first baseman, in my opinion, actually, is that this is the first position that we get to dive into where there's a ton of depth offensively, and there's a lot of those middle tier guys that are on the verge of becoming potential top 5 candidates, but with my list, it's pretty much just about guys that can straight up mash at the plate. Number 5, I'm going Anthony Rizzo. I had him very close to Freddie Freeman as well, but I'm not gonna break the rules and go with ties on this one, Rudy. But just the only difference for me is the numbers slightly favored Anthony Rizzo. They're both very talented left-handed hitting first basemen, which is always fun to watch. And you can factor in all those things about Rizzo having to be a leader on that team. Freeman's kind of established himself as a leader already, but really with this position right now, I'm just thinking about guys that can straight up mash and put up huge numbers. Number 4, I got Edwin Encarnacion. He really is not adequate at first base defensively, but again, this is just one of the best power hitters in the game. If he had a month last year where he hit 18 home runs in a single month. That is absolutely insane. It just shows
It's
when he's
absurd.
hot, he has more capability than anybody in the game. It's a dead pull swing pretty much, but you can get away with that when you're actually hitting home runs consistently. Pitchers aren't able to pitch away from him for some reason.
And he plays in a pretty good hitter's park, too.
That may be so, but, he's still managing to put up these major power numbers.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
without pitchers being able to actually pitch around him. I mean, he's got some protection in that Blue Jays lineup, but
he has a lot of protection.
Those are numbers that are hard to argue with, and they're very, very fun to watch when you're watching him on TV. So, I'm not gonna take that away from him in any way. His home runs are definitely some of the most majestic in Major Leagues. Number 3, I'm going with Paul Goldschmidt. Probably you can consider him one of the first basemen with the most potential in all of baseball. One of the players with the most potential. Rudy said it perfectly. He's extremely well-rounded. Steals some bases, has pretty nice glove over there at first base too, and some of the best raw power in the game. He's got huge forearms, can go out to all fields, no problem. Also hitter-friendly ballpark, but again, just makes it more fun to watch, in my opinion. And
he's had almost no protection the past couple of years.
That's true also. And there's a lot to be said for that, in his ability to hit for high average and high power when he is healthy. So, my number 2 guy is Jose Abreu. I don't agree that he is quite yet a number 1 just because of the lack of experience. I do consider him above Paul Goldschmidt at this point, just because I was extremely impressed with what I saw last year, and his swing, I gotta say, I don't agree with Rudy in that it's a swing that can't maintain decent average. He has pretty decent plate discipline, I guess you could say.
He has good plate discipline, but he's really aggressive, and he remember Vlad Guerrero? He was extremely aggressive. But
it works if you can actually hit the ball.
Being aggressive is like can help him big time, and it can hurt him especially when he starts swinging at balls.
I mean, you consider his rookie campaign, and you're like, oh, pitchers will learn how to pitch to him. Throughout the course of a season, pitchers are constantly trying to adjust these hitters.
Oh yeah,
and he's doing something right to make it so that he can stay on top of these pitchers.
All I'm saying is that when people were scouting him, going to the season and predicting how he would do, almost every report said that his swing is suspect for ability to maintain his average. I mean, I'm not saying he could overcome that, but I'd like to see more than 1 year of evidence to show that that's the case. I mean, his batting balls in play was 356 last year, which shows that he had a decent amount of luck on his side. The average is probably I'll say 300, give or take. So I'd like to see him get another year of experience before I'm truly confident that his swing can get you good average number, consistent average numbers.
One of the most significant things with his swing anyway that I consider is his ability to hit opposite field. You compare him to Edwin Encarnacion, he's not a dead pull hitter like that.
That's a good point.
He's got massive opposite field power, and I've seen in many cases where he's able to shorten up, hit line drives, hit singles when he needs to, which is where most of that average comes from. He's not always trying to hit home runs with 2 strikes either. He is a very smart hitter. He may not have the experience to be able to keep up with major league pitchers at the pace of like a 330, 340 average in the future, but he is definitely smart enough to make adjustments for himself to be able to put himself in a position to get on base at the very least in many situations, which is something that is pretty tough to do when you're expected to just hit jacks all day long. And he's able to do that too. So I give him credit for that. I see improvement just over the course of one major league season in that regard. And number one, no shock here, is Miguel Cabrera for me. He had back-to-back MVP campaigns, Triple Crown winner. In this era is almost unheard of, but, you know,
it is unheard
because of this guy.
Only one person has done it.
It's not unheard of, it's almost unheard of. So,
And
I think
in the past 6 years, only one person. Yeah.
I think you mentioned it, you considered him when he's healthy to be one of the best players, and you kind of corrected yourself to say that he's the best hitter in all of baseball.
No, he's the best player in baseball when he's at his best.
Well, that's when you get into the argument about.
Prove that. When Trout's not the best, he's the best. He's the best. But when Miguel Cabrera is having his peak.
Let me ask you this right now.
You're confusing me now.
His offensive greatness is so
his offensive numbers
transcending that he's the most valuable player in the league.
Right, they're way better than Trout's numbers offensively at their max. It depends on whether you like a nice center field glove out there to complement, your numbers at the plate. But Miguel Cabrera needs no defense to speak for, or to back up his offense in any way. His swing is one of the most intriguing things for me. Like, his swing is just the model swing of perfect player. I don't know.
It's the Greg Maddux pitching form of swings.
Right. He's able to hit balls that are off the plate out to right field. He's able to pull balls that are, possibly going to hit him out of the ballpark to left field. It's
watching
insane.
Him during
his
batting
plate
practice.
His plate coverage, his plate discipline, his ability to drive the ball the other way, his ability to read what type of pitch is coming at him. He's really developed every single aspect of hitting that you could possibly have. He's given himself every advantage in every single at-bat that he could possibly have. And that's why when he has years when he's a bit banged up like this last year, he's still able to destroy at the plate and be that force in the lineup. There's one at-bat that I saw from him in particular that just absolutely blew me away. It was 2 years ago, I think, and he was having some growing problems. It was nothing that was a serious injury, but it was definitely affecting his play and his swing. Yeah, he just didn't look comfortable at all.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was against Mariano Rivera in the bottom of the ninth inning at Yankee Stadium. And Mariano, I think he got him down to a 2-strike count. Got him down to a 2-strike count anyway. And he takes a pitch that a cutter down in the zone. It's definitely a put away cutter. It's below his knees a little bit on the outside part of the plate. Ideal pitch. Mariano saved games with that all the time. He just flicks his bat, puts it over the center field fence, and that was it. And Mariano Rivera, you see him on the camera, and he's just saying, wow.
Yeah, Mariano's all surprised because Mariano did his best, his best pitches just to get him out. And, that's the type of hitter he is when he's healthy. I'm just an Angels fan right now who, with the Trout and, Cabrera, best player. I don't know. I'm not gonna get into that.
All right.
I didn't say that he is. I just said when he's.
Oh no, I know.
He wasn't at his peak last year. I'm saying when he's at his best. That could be one.
Okay, I'll tell you this right now. I'd rather have Cabrera's season last year than Trout's season last year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I would. I wasn't even trying to make that statement.
I would. I was, even though Trout won MVP, even though he had a great year, I was disappointed as an Angel fan. I expected more.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the strikeouts were probably
that
concerning thing for me.
That bothered me so much.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting conversation when we get to talk about Trout with the top 5 players at each position, I think. But
when MLB didn't rank him number 1 center fielder. That bothered me.
The MLB Network's countdown, they do top 10.
Shredder, yeah.
The Shredder put McCutchen first,
yeah.
I believe, right?
Yeah.
Which, in my mind, is unbelievable considering just their whole ranking system is based on statistics, and Trout has a WAR that is higher than the Empire State, to quote the song. Anyway, yeah. That should be an interesting topic for when we get there. Will not be for quite a few weeks, but we'll leave it for then. That is gonna conclude our list of our top 5 players at first base right now, though, and we are gonna move on to the teams of the week. This week we have the Cardinals and the Cubs in the same division. Both are considered to be contenders in this Central Division this year. The Cubs, obviously not so much last year. This year, hopefully going to take a very new-looking team into a very, hopefully, new-looking record for them. So, what are your thoughts? We'll start with the Cardinals. They're in the same division. I have a feeling our conversation is going to overlap going back and forth between them.
It will.
Which is why I don't single one team out to start with in this conversation. So go ahead.
I have one question mark for the Cardinals. My question mark is one that could be answered very easily. That just shows how great this team is. Adam Wainwright. He had a great first half. Second half he struggled a little, and he got surgery, I think, in the off season. So depends whenever he comes back, he's still going to be most likely a great pitcher. Lance Lynn is in that rotation. Waka, Martinez, those guys are great pitchers. I like Matt Adams. I like Wong, Peralta.
I think you can make the statement, just going back to your Wainwright statement, that in the past 5 years, no player is more underrated. I could be wrong.
Yes, exactly.
I think him and Cueto are in that same boat, in my opinion. Just because of Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, just because
a little bit longer than Cueto.
Okay. So, and then I like Hayward, Holiday, Jay, and of course I love Yachty. This team is just a dynasty at this point. They're a great team. Their front office has found a way to have them sustain their winning type of baseball for years. They're the Spurs of baseball.
I think the death of, oh my god, Oscar Taveras is an extremely sad.
That was terrible.
Devastating loss.
It forced them to give up Shelby Miller. And of course.
That's not why it's tragic.
No. I'm explaining this right now. Of course.
The way that he died is.
It's just terrible.
He made a terrible mistake. I think it's a lesson to everyone. What alcohol can do to you, and just how to make good decisions in life. I mean, him and his girlfriend were both killed, and it's very depressing. And he was supposed to be a star. Luckily they're such a well-run team that they were able to turn, like you said, Shelby Miller was an outstanding pitcher this year. Was
he's supposed to have
very inconsistent last year into Jason Hayward and Jordan Walden. Jordan Walden is a quality reliever, and I'm the king of the Hayward fan club. His defensive value is incredibly underrated, I think. I do admit that he was supposed to be what Mike Trout is now, the completely well-rounded offensive and defensive superstar, and he never really he suffered a lot of minor injuries, and he's never really had that consistency offensively to be the offensive player that people always expected from him. But I mean, he's still like solid, but he's still like decent. But he is really, since his rookie year and his I believe his third season, he's only been in the league since 2010, which is hard to believe because I feel like he's still extremely young. But
we can all remember
he came in
his first home
run as a 20-year-old. So it has a lot to do with or my perception of him. But he's only 20. He'll be 26 in August. So he's still pretty young. He's only had really 2, I think, really good offensive years. But he's still solid. And I know I'm not trying to make this into Jason Hayward show, but his defensive value, he's like Andrelton Simmons. Their defensive value is so fucking insanely valuable.
Whoa.
That
Rudy.
They're just outstanding players. And they have Peter Borges, who I think is a very nice fourth outfielder. And then they signed Reynolds, who I think is a very good like pinch hitter type guy in the National League. And the rotation goes 5 deep, and they have Jamie Garcia, who probably won't even be in it.
I was a big fan of him when he first started.
I really like him.
His recovery.
His shoulder is made out of glass. So he's a nice guy to have as your sixth starter to pitch when you need him.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is their best team during this dynastic run since which started with like Pujols and winning the World Series I think in 2006. So in this era, I wouldn't say this is their best team that they have, but I still think they're going to win the division and have a chance to win the World Series. Yes. Lance Lynn, I'm sorry I'm going on really long. I just love the Cardinals actually. Lance Lynn really came out of nowhere last year in my opinion. He never really showed that consistency in his abilities. He always was a guy who you thought was, who never really was putting it all together. They'd have flashes of their ability. Like, he's always been a solid starter, but he never, I think, he really turned into a quality number 2. Yeah. And John Lackey, Michael Wacha, Carlos Martinez, it's like you said, they're just a great team.
I think Yasiel Puig said it best. If he said if the Dodgers are going to win the World Series, they're going to have to get through the Cardinals. It's not they're going to have to beat the Giants. They're going to have to beat any other team. Or he doesn't think the Nationals are a threat in the NLCS. He thinks if they're going to get to the World Series, they're going to have to beat the Cardinals. And that's very true because I know the Nationals are probably one of the best teams in baseball, but in the end of it, you're going to see the Dodgers, the Cardinals, and the Nationals in the thick of it in the late rounds of playoffs, right? So
can I say something really random? Just I think it's going to be really surprising. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I was looking at WAR, and do you guys know that Ian Kinsler was ranked 3rd in defensive WAR last year? That surprised me a ton. And Johnny Peralta was 8th. I had no idea either of them were.
I knew Peralta had an insanely high WAR for some reason. Apparently he's a doubles machine.
I had no idea either of them were even of average defenders. I'm sorry. I know it's random, but that really, really shocked me.
Yeah. Anyway, I think you're going to see a lot of teams trying to hit the ball to the left side of the infield, or the left side of the field in general, against this Cardinals team. If you look at their, center fielder, they got John Jay and Jason Hayward that are basically going to catch anything that's hit to that side of the field. Colton Wong out there at second base is not hurting anybody either. He's definitely a quality defensive second baseman. You got that left side, you got Carpenter, who just played his first year at third base there. Not really there for his glove. And you got Peralta, who apparently has some upsides in his metrics. He doesn't have range. I don't care what the metrics say. He doesn't have the kind of range that...
That's probably what it is. He probably doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but that might be officially feeding it. That's probably a big factor.
Right, and then you got Matt Holliday, of course. He's just kind of the face of the offensive outfielder. That really just stands out there and tries not to make himself look like a fool, which he still manages to do on a regular basis, though. So, we love him though. He hits jacks. And I think overall, though, they're just a very complete team.
There is one thing that I don't love about their team, is that, I guess it's the same, they don't really have a power bat per se.
Matt Holliday is a power bat.
I don't know.
There's no doubt about it. That is.
How many home runs did he have last year? Yeah.
Hey, there's a difference between actually having a good power year.
Over 30 home runs since
the Royals were last in home runs last year, and they found a way to the World Series. I'm not saying.
But the team isn't nearly that good defensively.
And I think the Cardinals were second to last in home runs, and they made it to the NLCS, I believe.
Yeah, this is the reason I bring it up. If they were a team like the Royals, where they're exceptional defensively and on base, like stealing bases and moving runners over, playing exceptional small ball, classic high school baseball, honestly, I would say that wouldn't matter. But their team has a bunch of, there's not really a consistent strategy with their position players, if that makes sense. I mean, I still think they're a really complete and excellent team, but they're neither like a power hitting team and an average hitting team, a defensive team.
I disagree. They're an extremely high average hitting team.
Yeah.
Jason Hayward's the new piece to their equation.
Do not hit, or Colton Wong do not hit very high averages.
Okay, Matt Carpenter.
Yeah, Jason Hayward. I honestly was about to say Jason Wang, and combine their names somehow, but Jason Hayward is a very new piece of this club. I think you're going to see a lot of changes with him offensively. This is a team that doesn't like to strike out, just like the Royals. They have guys that can put balls in.
You know the Royals were like top 3 in strikeouts last year, right?
The Royals?
The Royals.
I thought they were bottom 3.
I'll confirm, but I'm pretty sure they were actually near the top.
Really? Okay, well,
yeah, I'll look it up.
I'm pretty sure that's not their plan.
They were, let's see, they were 14th, so we were both wrong.
Okay.
Anyway. Wait. Here we go. They were. Oh no, you were right. I was wrong. Maybe I'm thinking. They were last in walks. That's why I got it mixed up in. Okay.
Yes, because they're a team that puts the ball in play.
First in strikeouts.
Okay. Glad we got that settled. I knew there was no way what you said was right, though. So, the Cardinals. There's 2 guys I'd even go as far to say 3 guys in particular that are models of some of the toughest hitters in the game in John Jay, Matt Carpenter, and Yadier Molina. They are probably some of the hardest outs to get. You talk about Victor Martinez and how he's one of the toughest outs to get. These guys, that's basically 3 Victor Martinez approaches in that lineup. That do their best to never strike out, to always make a tough out, to make pitchers work for every single at-bat that they have, grind out at-bats, fouling off pitches all day long until they can get a pitch that they want to do what they want with. It's something that you don't see very often. You just see players that go up there with their approach. I'm going to try to do this one thing, and whether you're a power hitter trying to go yard early in the count or something like that, these guys are able to adjust their situation. Even if they go, John Jay, for instance, he goes up there to say, I'm going to drive a ball up the middle or to the opposite field. He'll go up there, he'll foul off every single inside pitch he gets until he gets a pitch away that he can drive that way. And especially when it gets to playoff time, that is an approach that is going to win you some ball games, because every out is precious. Every out is precious at that point, and these guys do not waste outs on offense.
I completely agree.
They're gritty, and they have a winning, they know the winning formula, they have the winning culture. They haven't been sorry, never mind. They're a great team, I think we can all agree with that. So, you guys want to move on to the Cubs, maybe?
Yeah, I kind of...
I think they're the number 1 most, fascinating team.
Okay.
Yeah, them and the Marlins.
Leagues, in my opinion.
If you're a Cubs fan and you aren't excited, you're not allowed to be a Cubs fan. Because
they just don't exist.
No, yeah, you don't. Okay, I'm not a Cubs fan. I'm excited for seeing them.
Oh yeah.
Just like seeing the Padres. I'm excited to see all these teams that we're not used to winning, especially the Cubs who have that curse on them, that supposed curse. I'm excited to see what they can do. But like, you still have Castro at short, you have Rizzo at first, you have one of the best managers in the game that came with the new ace, John Lester. They have Jorge Soler, Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, and need I go on? I mean,
Fowler, Miguel Montero,
Theo Epstein,
Rondon,
Theo Epstein,
Jackson,
Theo
Travis
Epstein,
Wood, Jason Hamill.
Jason Hamill, you love Jason Hamill.
Yeah, Jason Hamill. Okay, so Theo Epstein saw that he had all these rookies. He saw that they're all ready. So I love this because he had connections with John Lester in Boston. He brought him over. He wanted a great manager. He got the best manager that he could have gotten.
By tampering.
Yeah, by tampering, but still he got him.
Yeah, he got him. That's all that.
That's all that matters. He still got him.
He's going to be managing the Cubs. That is what matters.
Yeah, exactly. He went out and filled holes in center field that, Dexter Fowler. He filled,
catcher.
He filled holes at catcher. He got a backup catcher even, who used to catch, Lester in Boston, David Ross. So, this team, I'm not calling it a complete team because there's still a lot to work on in the pen and after Lester, Hamill, Jackson. After that, there's Travis Wood, Arrieta.
Arrieta is definitely
Arrieta's number, I think Arrieta's 3. No.
He's 2.
He's 2, and then it's, the rest and then it's Hamill and then Jackson and Wood. But I think that pen still needs some work, but that team is just, I'm excited. I'm as a baseball fan, you should be rooting for this because these, I think as a Cubs fan, you have to recognize those long years, those agonizing years, the terrible years, that were all meant for something. And
the Luis Valbuena era is over.
The Luis Valbuena era is over, unfortunately. We all loved that era in Chicago. But, now, when you turn on the Cubs to watch, the fans aren't going to be the most interesting part to watch. It's going to be the players too.
Yeah. Let me just remind you that there's a young Addison Russell that's just waiting down there to wait for something to happen to Starling Castro.
And Addison Russell's supposed to be the best shortstop in this generation's scene.
They have Tommy Lasella and Alexi Alcantara. I don't know his first name.
I like Lasella.
I got it. Arizmendi Alcantara.
I think they're a team that can either, I personally think they'll be in the playoffs, but to be completely realistic, they could easily be really bad, or they can easily win the division.
Yes, but we're thinking good right now. We're thinking happy. We're thinking
positive.
We're gonna be half full. We're thinking the cup's half full, not half empty.
Well, I'm gonna go with the half empty approach. I'm cynical. They have a lot of guys who have to play big roles who have never done that before. In Baez, in Bryant.
That's exactly why I said,
Arrieta, I would like to see him sustain that success over a whole season. Hamill is up and down every year. And, I'd like to see Travis Wood and, Wada be consistent for a whole season too. Edwin Jackson, I don't think he's even going to be in the rotation. He was horrendous last year. Their, bullpen doesn't really have anyone who's elite. And it could easily be terrible. It could also be very good. They have a lot of guys who have had success and have had terrible years too. And Jason Mott, who hasn't played in like 2 years, and Pedro Strop. And their outfield is kind of weak. They have no power. Chris Copeland is okay. He's like fine. He's very like meh. I mean, he actually won the Rookie of the Year, I believe, on the Marlins at one point in his career. I know it sounds, and he was solid last year, but he doesn't really bring anything to the table. That really impresses me. Dexter Fowler, I think, is a guy who gets more
credit than he deserves.
Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, he gets more like credit and like press than he really has ever deserved. I don't think he's ever really had like a very.
He had one pretty good year in Colorado.
He's hit over 276. So.
That 1 year in Colorado, that was pretty.
He doesn't really have he doesn't steal that many bases considering his supposed speed. He doesn't have a lot of power. I guess he's fine defensively. He's not anything special. So I don't really get. I think we talked about that trade last week, but like I don't know that trade. I mean, I guess he's fine. I mean, he's average, but he's not exactly like, he's no Mike Trout in your center field. And so there I feel like a lot. I think he has big potential. He was pretty impressive last year in limited time. He's pretty young still. He's only 23. I think he's 23 or 24. And Chris Denorfia is solid as a fourth man. But I think having that much depth in your infield with like so many young guys, Alcantara, Baez, Castro, Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, La Stella, Russell.
I wonder how many times we're going to list off every single one of their amazing prospects. I think we've done it like 3 times already.
Guys, okay. They can't all play. I mean, I'm sure you can maybe make Baez into an outfielder, hopefully, and I don't know, maybe make Alcantara maybe eventually the center fielder if he shows he's good enough offensively. But they have to trade some of those guys, I think.
And that's okay. Having too many rookies is never a problem.
It is a problem because you're not giving them all the playing time.
Okay, it's not a bad problem though.
It's not a problem because you can always deal them.
Yeah, you can always deal them. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
They're there to deal.
If you have to deal them, then it is a problem.
Well, yeah, but you have the chips.
That's what I'm
saying.
It's a good problem
in your hands.
It's a good problem. It's a good problem. Yes. I'm just saying it's dangerous because you're at risk of having to deal them and not getting a right return just because you need to deal them, kind of.
Right.
But I think they're, like I said, the most interesting, and I think they can be the most fun team in baseball next year.
You guys remember to
see them next season.
You guys remember my bold prediction that we made going into the 2015 calendar year?
They're gonna.
No, I don't remember anyone's.
Yeah. Okay, I was really bold and said the Cubs would make the World Series, but.
Wow. Do you remember what our bodes were?
No. No. But I remember the reaction that you guys had to mine, so that was why I figured I'd bring it up again, just because at least Farbode and I are super positive, half glass full for them right now, so.
Okay.
That should be fun.
Rudy, one thing that you said about, all these rookies not being, like, all these rookies coming up, they've never been in that spot. Yeah, I completely agree. That's exactly why I said they need Anthony Rizzo to be, even though at his age he's really young, they need him to be the lineup veteran. They need him to be the leader because if they're comfortable and they've developed, I don't think the Cubs, like you said, this season could go either way. Either they're gonna all need time to develop more and they're gonna develop together in the major leagues and they're gonna suck, or they're gonna develop greatly and they're gonna play great and be in contention for the playoffs. I don't think this is like the year for them. I think if they get James Shields, they'll have an even better shot. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. I think they're gonna be in competition for the wild card. They're gonna get 1 or 2, but they're not gonna win that division.
Alright then. I think we can all agree though that watching a Cubs-Cardinals game at Wrigley Field will probably be one of the most fun games to be at.
That first game is gonna be sold out.
So that's opening day?
No.
Is it?
I don't know.
I was just saying that series in general.
No, I know that's what you're saying.
Especially this year. There's already, just based on previous rivalries and stuff. Anyway, that'll do it for our teams of the week. That was a very interesting NL Central conversation that we had there. We are going to go ahead and wrap it up though. As usual, we will accept any feedback, any questions, any negative feedback even that you have for us. So you can go ahead and let us know either in the comments. You can email us.
Out?
You can email us at warandpeacebaseball@gmail.com. You can tweet us at WPB_podcast. That will also be available to you. And again, I'd like to remind you that a Q&A would be ideal, and if we can get that going in the future, that'd be amazing. So on that note, we will go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you everybody for watching and tuning in. We'll be back next week, hopefully on a more consistent schedule, aiming for middle Sunday releases. So look forward to that in the future.